What if your life, your memories, your reality were just part of someone else's dream? That's not just the premise of Inception, it's the haunting question that lingers long after the credits roll. Released in 2010, directed by Christopher Nolan, and starring Leonardo DiCaprio, Inception isn't just a film, it's an intricate labyrinth of the mind, a cinematic enigma that dares you to question not only what you're watching, but how you perceive reality itself. In this deep dive, we're going beyond the spinning top. We're breaking down Nolan's architecture of dreams, unpacking theories, decoding symbolism, revisiting iconic scenes, and even exploring what Inception says about cinema itself. I'm Jocelyn, and you are watching Beyond the Plot. Buckle in, or better yet, tether yourself, because once we descend, there's no telling how many layers deep we'll go. Let's go. Inception centers on Dom Cobb, a skilled extractor, someone who specializes in infiltrating people's dreams to steal secrets from their subconscious. But Cobb isn't just another cerebral thief. He's a man on the edge, tormented by memories of his late wife Mal, and estranged from his children after a dark past that still follows him, even in his dreams. When powerful businessman Saito offers him a shot at redemption, to return home to clear his name, Cobb accepts a job no one has ever successfully done: Inception. Instead of stealing an idea, he must plant one deep in the mind of a corporate heir. To do it, he assembles a team: Arthur, the sharp and logical right-hand man; Ariadne, the gifted architect of dream worlds; Eames, the cheeky forger who can shapeshift within the dream; and Yusuf, the chemist who controls the sedation that makes this entire journey possible. As they journey deeper into layered dreams, dreams within dreams within dreams, time stretches, reality folds, and Cobb's grip on what's real starts to unravel. What begins as a heist film slowly transforms into a psychological and philosophical odyssey, a confrontation with Cobb's inner demons and with the nature of reality itself. At first glance, Inception might seem like a high-concept heist thriller, slick, cerebral, and action-packed. But beneath the surface of its multi-layered dreams lies an emotional core that elevates the film far beyond traditional sci-fi or action fare. What truly anchors this narrative is the tragedy of Dom Cobb, a man burdened not just by his actions, but by his memories. Leonardo DiCaprio delivers one of his most emotionally resonant performances as a man haunted by guilt, loss, and the unbearable weight of a promise broken. Cobb isn't just navigating dreamscapes, he's navigating grief. His subconscious isn't just a battleground, it's a tomb. And Mal, played hauntingly by Marion Cotillard, is its most terrifying ghost. She isn't just a character, she's a projection, a figment of Cobb's fractured memory. Cotillard balances seduction with menace, grief with blame, creating a character who is both sympathetic and horrifying. This duality, and between logic and emotion, between control and chaos, drives the tension of the film. Arthur, the pragmatic and risk-averse point man, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, contrasts with Eames, Tom Hardy, who adds levity and unpredictability to the dream logic. Ariadne, Elliot Page, named after the Greek mythological guide through the labyrinth, becomes our surrogate, slowly peeling back the layers of Cobb's past as we learn the rules of this mental chessboard. Their chemistry is understated but essential. No one overacts. Every performance is tightly wound, as if each character is aware they are only one misstep away from being trapped forever. The narrative structure, a heist unfolding across 3 layers of dreams, each with its own ticking clock, is genius in itself. But it's the interpersonal dynamics, the trust, betrayal, and unresolved trauma between characters that give these ticking clocks meaning. Inception's brilliance isn't in making you ask, how did they do that? But why did he need to? Christopher Nolan is not a conventional storyteller. In Inception, he doesn't simply tell a story, he constructs it brick by brick like a cerebral maze. His directing style is defined by a unique blend of intellectual rigor and emotional restraint, making each scene not just a moment in a plot, but a step deeper into a meticulously calculated mental architecture. Nolan's obsession with time, memory, and identity pulses through every frame. He doesn't hold the audience's hand. Instead, he challenges them to keep up, to engage with the narrative on both emotional and analytical levels. The concept of dreams within dreams could easily become convoluted in lesser hands, but Nolan roots the film in strict, logical rules that ground the viewer, no matter how surreal the environment becomes. This control extends to the performances he draws out of his actors, precise, subdued, and tightly controlled. Cobb isn't a bombastic hero. He's a man unraveling quietly. The entire cast seems aware that they're part of something larger than individual scenes. They are components of a psychological machine, and Nolan is the engineer orchestrating their rhythms. His direction also reflects a kind of mathematical beauty. Symmetry in set design, balance in action and dialogue, and an obsessive focus on rhythm and payoff. He plants narrative seeds early, like the spinning top or the kick, and pays them off with pinpoint accuracy. He demands attention but rewards it tenfold. In short, Nolan directs Inception like he's designing a paradoxical staircase, endlessly looping, intellectually stimulating, and impossible to look away from. What would a dream feel like if you could bottle it into sight and sound? That's the question answered by the stunning fusion of Hans Zimmer's score, Lee Smith's editing, and Wally Pfister's cinematography. Let's start with Zimmer's work. His Inception score is more than just iconic, it's integral. The low, thunderous brass hits, the infamous aren't mere audio effects. They simulate the weight of time, compressing and stretching tension like a rubber band. More impressively, the entire soundtrack is constructed from a slowed-down version of Edith Piaf's Non, je ne regrette rien, the very song used in the film as a dream layer countdown. It's genius. The soundtrack becomes part of the plot, not just the atmosphere. Meanwhile, the sound design subtly cues the viewer into whether they're in a dream or waking life. There's a sharp cleanliness to dream world acoustics. Gunshots feel hollow, voices slightly muffled, that subconsciously tells the viewer something isn't quite real. These details build immersion without shouting their presence. Then there's Pfister's cinematography, clinical, elegant, and immersive. He avoids the jittery chaos of most modern action, favoring long takes, steady camera movement, and wide-angle lenses that emphasize scope and spatial distortion. When the city folds, the camera doesn't panic. It glides, observing the impossible like it's natural. That's the key to making dream logic feel real. And don't forget that zero-gravity hallway fight scene. That wasn't green screen trickery, it was done with a rotating set and practical effects. The camera matches the spin, reinforcing the illusion. It's not just visual flair, it's narrative logic made physical. The editing stitches all these elements together across multiple timelines, creating a layered rhythm that mimics the descent into deeper subconscious levels. What could have been incoherent becomes mesmerizing. These aren't just technical achievements. They are deliberate artistic choices that make Inception not just a film you watch, but a dream you feel. All right, buckle up, because this is where Inception gets deliciously layered. At face value, it's a heist movie. Cobb and his team try to implant an idea into someone's mind. Cool. Straightforward, right? But look closer. Because Inception is less about stealing ideas and more about the fragility of the human psyche, grief, and the guilt we bury so deep it rewrites our reality. Let's talk about Mao. She's not just Cobb's dead wife, she's a manifestation of his subconscious guilt. Every time she appears, it's not random. She's Cobb sabotaging himself. She's his dark passenger, if you will. And her name? Mal, short for malfunction, or malady in French, meaning sickness. That's not a coincidence. And then there's the spinning top, the iconic totem. People love arguing about the ending. Does it fall? Does it spin forever? Is Cobb dreaming or not? But here's the deeper layer. The top isn't just a dream checker, it's a symbol of control. Cobb's entire journey is about losing control, letting go. When he finally walks away from the top in the last scene, he's not proving whether it's real. He's choosing to believe, choosing his kids over certainty. That's huge. Now let's talk elevators, specifically the one in Cobb's mind. Remember that elevator in his dream, with different floors representing different memories? That's not just a cool visual, it's a literal descent into his subconscious, like Dante's Inferno. Each level, each floor is a memory he can't let go of. And at the bottom, Mal, the origin of his trauma, the lowest level of guilt. And speaking of levels, the entire structure of the dream heist mimics Joseph Campbell's hero's journey. Cobb goes through a call to adventure, crosses thresholds, faces inner demons, Mal, experiences death and rebirth, limbo, and returns home changed. That's mythological storytelling 101. Even Ariadne's name, total giveaway. In Greek myth, Ariadne helps Theseus navigate the labyrinth. Here, she's guiding Cobb through the maze of his mind. She's not just an architect, she's a symbolic psychological guide. Oh, and let's not ignore time. Time in Inception isn't just a gimmick, it's symbolic of how we process trauma. The deeper you go into the mind, the slower time moves. That's so accurate to how memory works. 1 second in real life can feel like forever when you're stuck in regret or loss. Limbo is literally timeless because trauma is timeless if you don't confront it. So, yeah, behind the sleek action and complex plot lies a deeply symbolic story about loss, control, memory, and healing. Nolan didn't just write a sci-fi script, he crafted a psychological mirror, and it's up to us how deep we're willing to go. Now, this is where Inception becomes a playground for theorists. Because Christopher Nolan doesn't just tell a story, he leaves breadcrumbs, opens trapdoors, and dares you to question everything. So let's dive into some of the most compelling fan theories that have haunted Reddit threads and film forums for over a decade. Theory 1, the entire film is a dream, Cobb's dream. Let's start big. What if none of it is real? What if everything, the heist, the team, even the mission to plant the idea, is Cobb's dream? This theory hinges on the idea that we never actually see reality. From the first scene, we're already submerged in dreams. Cobb's totem, the top, was originally Mal's, so some argue it was never truly his to begin with, making it unreliable. Evidence? The kids never age, their clothes stay the same, and we never see their faces clearly until the very end. All signs of a constructed memory rather than a real moment. And don't forget that line from Yusuf. Dreams feel real while we're in them. Maybe Nolan is literally telling us, you're still in it. Theory 2, the totem was never the top. It was Cobb's wedding ring. Here's a subtler one. Some eagle-eyed viewers notice something fascinating. Cobb wears a wedding ring in scenes that are presumed to be dreams, but he doesn't wear it in scenes considered real. So, is that his real totem? The theory suggests Cobb stopped using the top because it reminds him of Mal. Instead, his subconscious clings to the ring, and when he lets go of his guilt, the ring disappears, signaling he's free. It's Nolan-level genius if true. Theory 3. Saito and Cobb are still in limbo. Remember the opening scene where Cobb washes up on the shore and finds Saito as an old man? That's actually a full circle from the end of the film. Some believe the entire movie is a closed loop, and that Saito and Cobb are still trapped in limbo, dreaming about escape. The idea is that everything between that moment and the plane landing is just an elaborate fantasy playing out inside limbo. Bleak but hauntingly plausible. Theory 4. Ariadne is the real architect of Cobb's therapy. Here's one that flips the movie on its head. What if Ariadne was never just part of the mission, but a therapist helping Cobb navigate his own mind? Think about it. She's the only one who questions Cobb's motives, gets into his head, and tries to help him confront Mal. She literally helps him design dreams and dive into the deepest layers of his psyche. It's as if she's orchestrating an intervention through dreams. Wild, right? So, what does it all mean? That's the point. There is no definitive answer. Nolan crafted a narrative Rorschach test. It reflects you, your beliefs, your fears, your interpretations. That's the magic of Inception. And that's why we're still talking about it all these years later. Okay, Inception is often hailed as a masterpiece. And yeah, I totally get why. I mean, how many films manage to be action-packed thrill rides and philosophical puzzles at the same time? Nolan basically gives us James Bond meets Jungian psychology and somehow makes it work. But hey, just because it's brilliant doesn't mean it's flawless. First, the strengths, and oh boy, there are plenty. The concept alone, mind-blowing. Dreams within dreams, layered consciousness, time dilation. Nolan took something as abstract as dreams and turned it into a fully realized cinematic world. You feel the gravity of every layer. 1 minute, a van is falling in slow-mo, and the next, you're in a zero-gravity hallway fistfight. The guy choreographed 4 different realities happening at once and made it coherent. That's just insane craftsmanship. And don't even get me started on Hans Zimmer's score. That Bram sound, iconic. The way the music slows down across dream levels, mirroring the passage of time. It's not just atmospheric, it's mechanical. Also, the performances are rock solid. DiCaprio delivers one of his most emotionally complex roles. He's not just brooding, he's broken, haunted, obsessive. Joseph Gordon-Levitt brings cool intellect, Tom Hardy brings charisma, and Marion Cotillard, absolutely chilling as Mal. Her presence lingers like a ghost in every scene. But, and here's where things get spicy, the film's weaknesses do start to show, especially on rewatches. For one, the emotional core sometimes gets buried under exposition. There are whole chunks of dialogue where characters are just explaining rules. It's like Nolan's so worried we won't get it that he throws in Ariadne as the audience surrogate. But even then, you feel the weight of all that info dump. And let's be honest, some characters are more functions than people. Arthur, Eames, Yusuf, they're cool, sure, but they exist mostly to move the plot. They don't get real arcs or emotional depth. It's Cobb's story, 100%, and while that keeps it focused, it also limits the emotional diversity. Another gripe, dreams aren't that dreamy. Nolan builds dream worlds with cold logic and structure, but not much surrealism. Where's the weird stuff? The dreams feel like architectural blueprints, not chaotic subconscious streams. You kind of wish for more Lynchian madness, right? Still, here's the thing, even with its flaws, Inception swings big. It dares to be intelligent, emotional, and entertaining all at once. And in a cinematic landscape full of safe sequels and formula films, that ambition alone earns it legendary status. Yeah, it's not perfect, but maybe it doesn't have to be. Maybe it's enough that Inception makes us think, feel, and question reality long after the credits roll. When Inception hit theaters in 2010, it wasn't just another blockbuster, it was an event. Critics across the globe responded with a mix of awe, curiosity, and, in some rare cases, confusion. Major outlets like the New York Times and The Guardian praised the film for its ambition, intelligence, and emotional core. Roger Ebert called it an astonishingly original sci-fi epic and gave it 4 out of 4 stars. He emphasized how Nolan didn't just rely on visual effects but dared to challenge the audience's intellect, something rarely seen in summer tentpoles. Rotten Tomatoes, a solid 87% from critics. Metacritic, a respectable 74, signaling generally favorable reviews. But it wasn't universal praise. Some critics found Inception to be too cold, too calculated. The emotional arc, especially Cobb's guilt over Mal, didn't land for everyone. Others felt the plot was needlessly complex and the characters a bit thin. Still, even detractors agreed on one thing. Nolan was swinging for the fences. Whether you loved it or got lost in the layers, Inception demanded your attention, and that alone made it stand out in a sea of reboots and sequels. Let's talk about us, the audience. People walked out of the theater either stunned into silence or desperately needing to talk about what they just saw. That final spinning top alone sparked endless debates. Was Cobb still dreaming? Did it wobble? Did it fall? Online forums exploded. Reddit threads went wild. YouTube breakdowns popped up like mushrooms after rain. Inception wasn't just a movie, it became a cultural puzzle, a shared experience. It also had legs at the box office. Over $836 million worldwide. For an original sci-fi film with no superheroes or existing IP, that's phenomenal. And the legacy? It cemented Nolan's reputation as a modern-day Kubrick, someone who makes thinking man's blockbusters. Today, Inception is frequently listed in greatest films of the 21st century lists, and still influences screenwriters, directors, and meme makers alike. The real dream? That a film like this can still win over both critics and audiences. To understand why Inception feels so unique, we have to go behind the curtain, into the mind of Christopher Nolan and the meticulous process that birthed this cinematic dream. Believe it or not, Inception was over a decade in the making. Nolan first pitched the idea to Warner Brothers in 2001, not as a summer blockbuster, but as a horror film set in dreams. But he realized the concept was too sprawling, too ambitious. He needed more experience and more trust from studios. Fast forward through Batman Begins and The Dark Knight, and Nolan finally had the clout to go all in. Warner Brothers gave him a $160 million budget, almost unheard of for an original script. No franchise, no comic book, just a high concept idea, a lot of risk, and a ton of creative freedom. Let's talk about the visuals. Nolan is known for his commitment to practical effects, and Inception is no exception. That iconic hallway fight with Joseph Gordon-Levitt, no green screen. The team built a real rotating corridor, and Levitt trained for weeks to perform in zero gravity. The results? A fight scene unlike anything ever put on screen, immersive, disorienting, and jaw-droppingly cool. The dream city folding in on itself? That was achieved with a blend of miniatures and CGI, but always grounded in physical logic. Nolan insisted that even the dream worlds feel tactile and real. Shooting took place across 6 countries, from Paris to Morocco to Calgary and Tokyo. Each location was chosen to reflect different layers of dreams. For example, the Snow Fortress in the 3rd dream level is a nod to old-school Bond films. Nolan's way of playing with genre tropes inside the layered narrative. And the emotional spine of the movie? That was always Cobb's relationship with Mal. Nolan worked closely with Leonardo DiCaprio to refine Cobb's arc, blending science fiction spectacle with a deeply personal story about guilt, grief, and the blurry boundary between memory and reality. It wasn't just a technical challenge. Inception was a narrative tightrope walk. Scenes were restructured, timelines revised, exposition trimmed. Editor Lee Smith had the monumental task of balancing 5 dream layers, all happening simultaneously during the final heist sequence, and somehow, it all clicked. When Inception premiered in 2010, it didn't just blow minds, it stormed awards season. The Academy took notice, and despite being a genre film, something the Oscars often overlook, Inception earned a whopping 8 Academy Award nominations, winning 4. What did it win? Best Cinematography. Wally Pfister's work gave dreamscapes a tangible, elegant, and haunting texture. Best Sound Editing and Best Sound Mixing, rightfully awarded for those earth-shaking dream collapse sequences and the iconic auditory cues layered with meaning. Best Visual Effects. From the folding cities of Paris to the zero-gravity hallway fight, this was next-level world-building. It lost Best Picture to The King's Speech, a decision still debated today. And while Nolan didn't receive a Best Director nomination, Inception cemented his place as one of the most daring and cerebral filmmakers of his generation. But the true test of a film's greatness, its legacy, and Inception has aged like wine in a dream vault. It's referenced constantly in pop culture, parodied, studied, and even taught in film theory classes. Its dream within a dream structure has influenced dozens of films and TV shows, from Doctor Strange to Westworld. The Braham sound became an instant cinematic meme, the spinning top still spinning in fan theories. More than a decade later, Inception stands tall, not just as a sci-fi milestone, but as proof that audiences will show up and think deeply if you trust them. Nolan dared to ask moviegoers to pay attention, to engage, and to interpret. That's not just bold, that's visionary. So, after all the layers, theories, visuals, and echoes of time, what does Inception leave us with? It leaves us with a question, not just about Cobb's reality, but about ours. Christopher Nolan doesn't hand us answers. He hands us a spinning top and walks away. Why? Because Inception isn't just about dreams, it's about the power of belief. The belief that our world, no matter how messy, painful, or unreal it may feel, is still ours to shape. That's the genius of Nolan. He doesn't just entertain, he invites us to participate, to interpret, to argue. Inception doesn't end when the credits roll, it lingers in your thoughts, in your dreams, in your rewatch list. It's not a film you simply watch, it's a film that watches you back. And maybe, just maybe, that's the real Inception. Thanks for diving deep with me into one of cinema's most mind-bending journeys. If you enjoyed peeling back the layers, hit that like button, subscribe to Beyond the Plot, and let me know in the comments. What do you think happened in the end? Did the top fall? Or are we still dreaming? Let others know your opinion.